Some destinies unfold in feasts of shadows. Lena served at the annual banquet, a 24-year-old servant, scarred by silence and entangled in poverty. Balancing trays laden with lavish dishes, the weight rested heavily in her arms, more than just food. It was a burden of unfulfilled dreams, the stale scent of desperation clinging to her like a second skin. Laughter echoed throughout the grand hall, sharp and mocking, while she moved through the crowd like a wraith, invisible yet painfully present among the opulent revelry. Every year, as the nobles and royals celebrated their splendor, the peasants toiled unheard in the background. Nothing ever changed. The kingdom marked the occasion of unity, but for Lena, it was a reminder of her relentless servitude beneath King Draven's oppressive rule. He sat at the head of the long table, a towering figure cloaked in shadow, masked behind an expression of indifference. His dark eyes scanned the room, a predator surveying his domain, and Lena could only wonder what lay beneath that exterior, buried so deep that even she could not fathom it. The ghosts of her childhood tugged at her thoughts, an orphan, taken in by hard-hearted overseers, living a life dictated strictly by rules. No love had ever reached her, only the cold acknowledgement of her position. Yet tonight, as she carried those heavy trays, something stirred within her, something fierce and untamed. Her gaze caught his, and in that moment, everything changed. An electric connection, brief yet searing, passed between them as their eyes locked across the crowded hall. What could he see in her? A servant? An inkling of desire ignited, sparking a wish she hadn't dared to entertain for years. With each passing toast, each hollow cheer, Lena navigated the banquet, the clinking of glasses and the boisterous laughter suffocating. She felt the undercurrent of disdain, the nobles oblivious to her presence, demanding more. The heat of Draven's gaze lingered, captivating her, igniting something within that she thought long extinguished. Where others saw just a servant, he glimpsed a flicker of rebellion, a spirit yet unbroken. Was it possible that the gods of fate had conspired to unite them, weaving a connection that transcended their circumstances? "Lena!" A voice pierced her reverie, yanking her back to the immediate chaos. Another lord beckoned, unaware of her turmoil. She steeled herself, moving back into the fray, a puppet pulled by the strings of duty and an insatiable desire for freedom. Yet, as she served the extravagant dishes, her heart thundered in her chest, echoing with each denied wish, the wish to escape, to live. But could anyone truly find freedom in this gilded prison? The night wore on, the poisonous laughter mingling with shallow conversations, but her heart raced, drowning out the noise. She couldn't shake the feeling of something brewing, an exhilarating shift in her fate as Draven's presence lingered like an electric storm on the horizon. "Tonight is different," she whispered to herself, barely audible against the clamor of the banquet. "Isn't it?" But dare she believe that? Was it foolishness to dream, to entertain a notion that life held more than this drudgery? Just then, a chill climbed her spine. A premonition? Something ominous lurked beneath the surface of the festivities. The noble's laughter took on a sharper edge, hinting at betrayal and secrets. Her gaze flickered back to the king, who had become a dark star amidst the chaos, illuminating a path that both excited and terrified her. Lena crossed the hall, the tension thick in the air, inching closer to a fate she didn't fully understand. But in that moment, one thing stood clear. The tide was turning, and destiny awaited, threatening, alluring, and inevitable. What lies ahead? Would this night mark the beginning or the end of her existence? And as she approached the king, her heartbeat echoed her unanswered questions. Would he see her? Would he even care? The mysteries hung in the air, heavy and intoxicating. The banquet swirled around Lena, but her heart beat to a different rhythm. Voices faded into the background as she navigated through the vivid colors and loud laughter, the castle's grandeur barely touching the scars marking her soul. She had spent years in this sprawling fortress of power and privilege, trapped in a cycle of servitude that dictated her every action. Lena's mind drifted back to her past, her memories a collage of shadows. Orphaned young, she had been thrust into the castle's care, where kindness was as scarce as sunlight on a winter's day. The caretakers were hard-hearted, driven by their own cruel agenda, treating her like a stray animal rather than a human being. They saw only the dirt on her skin, the rags she wore, not the fierce spirit deep inside that refused to be extinguished. She had become adept at fading into the background, a ghost among the living, always obeying, always hidden. Her formative years revolved around the unyielding rules of the castle, where laughter and joy were reserved for those who wore crowns and silk garments. While others danced, she scrubbed floors, carrying the weight of generations of suffering. Dreams? No, those were luxuries she couldn't afford. Raped of hope, time pressed heavily upon her, each moment slipping further into the abyss, each day a reminder of her insignificance. Then there was Draven. The rumors floated through the castle like a dark mist. He was a king molded by betrayal, heart encased in frost. His once idealistic vision for his kingdom shattered, replaced by a fierce determination to maintain control. He had come a long way, but at what cost? Those eyes, once warm and inviting, were replaced by a cold exoskeleton, mistrust ingrained deeply. She had heard tales from the older servants, of a noble heart turned to stone, of quiet rage simmering beneath his composed exterior. But that night, something inexplicable flickered in the air when their paths crossed. A moment of connection, raw and painful, laced with a shared ache that neither could voice. As she brushed past him, the soft scent mixed with wood smoke captured her senses, summoning a desire she didn't understand. What did he see in her? A mere servant, or something hidden beneath the surface? Could it be true that even kings could recognize a spark of rebellion? Draven's dark silhouette stayed etched in her mind, each glimpse of him igniting an unfamiliar longing. Despite the chains forged by duty, their fates began to intertwine. They crossed paths again and again in the dim-lit hallways, far from prying eyes. In those fleeting moments, something shifted, words exchanged in hushed tones, laughter shared amidst the chaos of responsibilities. He started to see her, to truly see her, and that scared her. As the days of the banquet faded into nights, Lena began to feel a change enveloping her. The castle's shadows didn't seem quite as dark when shared with Draven's presence. Of course, she kept herself guarded, always aware of her place. But it felt different. Each connection chipped away at the ice encasing their hearts. "Why do you stay?" he had asked one night, leaning against the cold stones of the castle, shadows dancing in his eyes. A question that cut too deep. She wanted to tell him it was the will to survive, to endure the oppressive regime that ruled their lives. Instead, she met his gaze, feeling a fragile resolve settle in her chest. "I serve because I must," she finally replied, her voice a whisper. "But it's not all I am." His eyes scrutinized her, searching, hungry for a truth. What lay beneath her words? The defiance? The yearning? Uncertainty clouded her mind. This was risky. Intimacy felt like both a lifeline and a trap. But the threat loomed, always lurking just outside the periphery of their connection. Rumors whispered through the castle like a phantasm, conspiracies and envy brewing amongst the nobles. They could sense the shift, the change growing like rebellion, and it terrified them. Those with power clung harder, determined to preserve their status, and Lena, now part of Draven's heart's secret depths, felt the pressure tightening around them. The servants exchanged wary glances, suspicion growing. She heard hushed voices behind closed doors, eyes calculating. A plot was scheming, betrayal lurking in every corner. The darkness encroached upon them, threatening to drive the wedge deeper, just when hope dared to bloom. Lena felt the tension thick in the air, intertwining her fate with the king's. Would the glimmers of their connection survive the storm gathering on the horizon? Or would everything they had nurtured be swept away by greed and envy? And hope, so fragile, hung by a thread, waiting to see if love could rise to meet the darkness, threatening to consume them both. The banquet had changed her life that night. She was no longer just a servant. She was something more, a force even the fiercest storms would have to reckon with. The stakes were impossibly high. Would she dare to confront the shadows that threatened to tear them apart? The air crackled with tension in the days following the banquet. Lena felt it like a storm brewing on the horizon, a weight pressing down on her chest, gnawing at her sense of security. Whispers grew louder, ominous, swirling around the castle's corridors, shrouded in deceit and resentment. The nobles were restless, their eyes darting like predators, searching for weakness, preying on uncertainty. Draven's nightly visits had grown scarce, each encounter charged with an urgency that both thrilled and terrified her. Secrets danced between them, a myriad of unsaid words leaving her heart racing, an intoxicating desire tangled with trepidation. With every shared glance, every fleeting touch, Lena sensed the storm converge. Their connection burned fiercely in the darkness, and yet it teetered on the brink of annihilation. One evening, while dusting the ornate vases in the main hall, Lena overheard a group of nobles discussing plans in hushed tones. She stole closer, careful to remain hidden in the shadows. "He's become careless. This connection with a servant, it'll bring his downfall," one voice hissed, sharp and venomous. "Those who cling to power grow desperate. We have to act before it's too late. The king's heart is weak." Another chimed in. Fear gripped Lena's heart. They plotted, schemed like wolves in the night, waiting for the opportunity to strike. Could they really threaten their connection? If they managed to separate her from Draven, what would become of the fragile bond they had nurtured? Her heart raced, adrenaline surging as she slipped away, mind swirling with thoughts. In those fleeting moments, she understood. Their love, their bond, was a beacon attracting danger. And yet she still held on to hope. But how could they fend off the darkness creeping closer? That night, while the moon hung heavy like a watchful eye above the castle, Lena paced restlessly in her small quarters. She couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Each tick of the clock echoed in her head, a relentless reminder that change was coming. She missed Draven, his warmth, his reassurance. When they were together, the world faded away, leaving only the two of them. But outside, the castle walls thickened with danger, and she had to draw him in. The following evening, she found the courage to seek him out. The worn stone corridors grew colder as she approached the king's chambers, heart pounding in her chest. What would she say? Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. She found him brooding by the window, moonlight casting him in sharp relief, a silhouette of conviction, yet haunted. The sight took her breath away, both exhilarating and terrifying. "Draven," she whispered, and he turned, surprise flickering across his fierce features. "Lena." His voice was low, almost a growl, laced with an undercurrent of something dangerous. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you," she replied, surging forward. "I can't shake this feeling. Something's coming." His expression darkened, and she sensed the weight of his worry, the burdens that pressed heavily upon his soul. "I know," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck, trying to exude calm. "There are whispers amongst the nobles. They sense something different. They're dangerous." "What are they planning?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. "Separation, Lena. They want to expose our connection. It's become a threat." His eyes were fierce, and she cupped his face in her hands, desperate to reach him. "I can't lose you." "Then we won't let them. We'll fight this together," she urged, determination surging through her veins. "We cannot let their envy consume the bond we've formed." And at that moment, he leaned in closer, close enough that the warmth radiating from him enveloped her like a cocoon. "You truly believe that we can withstand this? That we can defy their expectations? Love is worth fighting for, she whispered, voice trembling. She could feel the surge of the mate bond pulsating between them, an invisible thread drawing them irrevocably closer. We'll face this storm together. Draven's gaze softened, the weight of his resolve crumbling. Then let us be the storm. I won't let anyone take you from me. His words ignited something in her, releasing the yearning she had been harboring. The night, once filled with caution, turned electric with possibilities. In that breathless moment, they crossed the fragile threshold, their lips meeting, igniting the desperate flames that danced beneath their skin. The kiss tasted of longing and determination, a declaration forged in the fires of adversity. Time slipped away as they melted into each other, the world outside fading into nothingness. But reality intruded, shattering the blissful cocoon they'd woven. The night air thrummed with danger, and Lena pulled back, catching her breath. What will we do? We'll prepare. I've fought many battles in my life. This will be no different. We'll expose the treachery and rally our allies. Draven's voice was filled with fierce resolve. Together, Lena affirmed, sealing their pact with a look that promised unyielding strength. But the gravity of the situation loomed, dark and heavy. Could they truly confront the shadows gathering around them? Doubts crept in like specters, taunting her inner fears. As they stood side by side, heartbeats echoing in unison, Lena promised herself, whatever lay ahead, she would fight for their love, turning fear into fuel, ready to face whatever awaited them. What would they discover? Would their love weather the storm, or would it be extinguished by the very darkness that threatened to consume them both? The dawn of their battle was near, but for now they stood together, tangled in the uncertainty of a fate neither could imagine. The storm was coming, but love would always be worth the fight. The days that followed were fraught with tension, the air thickened by the impending storm. Every corner of the castle buzzed with whispered secrets, but Lena and Draven kept their resolve strong, bound by an unbreakable thread woven from shared dreams and a fierce determination to protect their love. Each fleeting moment felt precious, a testament to their bond, but they also moved with purpose, preparing for the clash that loomed ever closer. They spent long hours together in the shadows of the castle, strategizing and seeking allies. Lena's heart raced every time Draven entered the room, his presence igniting something wildly reckless and beautiful. And yet, steeling herself against the weight of their precarious situation was a constant challenge. She couldn't ignore the way the nobles eyed her, suspicion flaring like a fire. Each day felt like a tightening noose, but she had never been one to back down. "Tonight, we'll discuss our plans with Lord Axton," Draven said one evening as they walked through the castle's hidden passages, void of prying eyes. Shadows danced along the stone walls, flickering like memories. "He's a good man, though the court may not see it." "Will he stand with us?" Lena questioned, crossing her arms against the chill of the corridor. Her pulse quickened, both with worry and hope for a connection that could turn the tide. "He's loyal to his own interests." Draven nodded, the tension in his jaw evident. "Yes, but he respects strength. He's seen how the nobles treat the lower classes. He knows the tides are shifting." As they moved closer to Axton's quarters, Lena stole glances at Draven, committing his features to memory. The way he moved, with purpose and strength, lit a fire in her spirit. He was not just a king. He was a man battling demons of his own, a reality she deeply understood. When they reached Axton's door, Lena's heart raced. The exchange of trust and dialogue would be crucial. Would this man truly see them as a united front? Would he advocate for the change both she and Draven desperately sought? Draven knocked, and the door swung open to reveal a stocky man with sharp, calculating eyes, a face etched with years of navigating the treacherous waters of the court. "Your Majesty," he greeted with a deep bow before his eyes flickered to Lena, lingering a moment too long. The tension tugged at Lena. She felt exposed, but she steadied herself. "Thank you for meeting with us, Axton." Draven strode in, confidence radiating from him. Lena followed suit, forcing herself to remember the strength they held as a pair. They needed that strength now more than ever. "The nobles are at each other's throats," Axton started, gesturing toward a map spread across a heavy oak table. "You should know there are talks of an uprising. It won't take long for them to turn their sights on you." Lena's heart thudded painfully in her chest. "Is that why you agreed to meet with us? To dissuade this uprising?" Draven interjected. "We believe we can stop this by starting with unity among the people. We need to awaken the spark of rebellion among the serfs and workers. If we can show them strength, they'll rally behind us." Axton paused, apprehension coloring his features. "And you believe they'll be willing to follow you? A king who's been in the lap of luxury while they languish in squalor?" "Yes." That single word erupted from Draven with conviction, enough to leave no room for doubt. "If they see we'll fight for them, if they see we are one with them, that will change everything." The gravity of Axton's gaze shifted, recognizing the depths of their ambition. "And what do you intend to do? You'll need allies amongst the community themselves. The estate holders are content in their comfort." Lena took a deep breath, adrenaline surging through her. "We can start small, gather free laborers and disenfranchised workers. Bring them together in secret. They will listen if they know that change is possible." Axton nodded slowly, the wheels turning behind his eyes. "Very well. If we can gather enough voices, we could force the court to tremble. I'll lend my support, but you must promise me one thing. If this fails, we cannot allow ourselves to be caught. We'll need to be cunning." In that moment, they forged a pact of determination, and Lena felt hope spark anew in her chest, a liveliness igniting amongst the fear. They spent hours hashing out plans, consuming the air with their fire, plotting how they could ignite a revolution. Lena felt stronger with each passing moment, and an unwavering resolve coursed through her. As the evening wore on, plans sharpened and alliances were forged, the trio laying the groundwork for what would be a volatile ascent into power. But the threat of betrayal lingered at the edge of their discussions like a ghost, haunting, ominous. The atmosphere shifted when Axton posed a sudden thought. "And what of the estates? You'll have to confront them soon enough. The longer you wait, the more time they have to prepare for their own defenses." "Then we leave tonight," Draven decided. "Rallying the people should start immediately. We'll leverage the upcoming market day." "What if the nobles catch wind?" Axton urged, eyes sharp with concern. "They won't. We'll use market day to our advantage, mix amongst the crowd. We just need to get the word out quietly, see how many will join us." Lena's heart raced with ambition and fear, the thrill of impending change surging through her. They would not back down. Their fight was worth every risk. That night, while the castle lay still beneath a cloak of darkness, Lena and Draven moved through the corridors with stealth, preparing to cement their plan. They posted small notes in secluded nooks, inscribed with words of hope, urging the oppressed to come forth and unite. It felt almost surreal, a break into whom she had always been, a pathway to rebellion under the moonlit sky. "Lena," Draven murmured softly as they conspicuously placed another call for action. "You're essential to this. You bring light to my darkened world." His sincerity melted her heart, and she felt an unyielding strength radiate back. "And you give me the will to fight for a future. I believe in this, in us." But silently, fear gnawed at her heart. What if they were exposed? What if the very foundation of their bond was torn apart before they could ignite hope among the people? Morning would come, but with it, uncertainty. Would they rise together? Or would the shadows reach out and snatch their courage before the dawn? Hope rested tenuously upon the cusp of a dream. The night was whispering promises, but the reality of dawn always loomed too near. Soon they would face the storm, hands clasped tight, hearts racing, prepared for anything. But would unity be enough to turn the tide? Would love break through the darkness? No, hope was worth fighting for. Together, they would meet the dawn. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden hues over the bustling market. Lena's heart raced with anticipation as she and Draven maneuvered through the crowd. The energy crackled like a live wire, and yet beneath that current lay an undercurrent of uncertainty. Would the people respond? Would they heed their call? Would? Draven kept close, his presence steadying. "Stay close, Lena. We'll blend in. Gather what we can," he whispered, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "We need to gauge their reactions." As they walked, the sense of spices, baked goods, and fresh produce enveloped them, almost drowning out the anxious flutter in her stomach. Vendors shouted, competing for attention, presenting their wares like shields against the world. But the laughter and chatter felt like a distant echo as her mind twisted with fear of rejection. "Are they ready for this?" she asked, her voice barely above a murmur. "More than you think," he replied softly, brushing his hand against hers, a small reassurance that sent warmth through her. "Change begins with hope, and they've been suffocating under the weight of oppression for too long." They approached a gathering of workers near a fruit stall, their voices raising in excitement as they discussed the harvest. Lena took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. This was her chance. "Now," she whispered to Draven, and together they stepped into the heart of the crowd. "People of Valoran!" Draven's voice boomed, cutting through the clamor. Heads turned as people noticed the king standing before them. Eyes filled with confusion, skepticism, and curiosity met them. "Today, under the watchful eye of the sun, we stand together to reclaim our voices, to join hands against the shadows that seek to hold us down." Lena watched as some faces lit up with understanding, while others contorted in disbelief. "What does he mean?" She could hear murmurs ripple through the crowd. "Don't be deceived," a voice shouted from the back, a noble, recognizable by his ornate clothing. "The king would have you believe he is one of you, but remember, it is he who bathes in luxury while you toil endlessly." "Do you believe that?" Draven interjected, his voice steady yet charged with defiance. "Each of you bears the burden of our kingdom's struggles, and it weighs upon my heart. I won't allow my inaction to contribute to your suffering any longer." Lena stepped forward, emboldened by his words. "We've suffered too long, but together we can rise against the forces that seek to divide us. Will you stand with us?" The crowd shifted, uncertainty, but also a hint of eagerness sparking in their eyes. Tension hung thick. Would they rally? Would they stand against the very system that oppressed them? A heavy silence settled. It felt like a lifetime. Then, from the front of the crowd, a woman stepped forward, eyes bright with conviction. "I'll join you," she called, raising her fists. "It's time to stop being afraid." "Yes, we need to fight for our families." Another voice joined in. Cheers erupted, cascading through the throng as more voices joined, demanding change, igniting a fire of hope that surged through the gathering. Draven looked to Lena, pride shimmering in his eyes, and in that moment she realized they were indeed lighting the spark of rebellion. "It begins here," she shouted, her heart soaring with the power of their shared voice. "The nobles will likely retaliate. They won't go down quietly," Draven cautioned, his expression serious, yet lit with determination. "We need to prepare. We need allies to stand with us when they lash out. I'll gather the volunteers. We must train them, teach them that strength lies in unity." Lena felt a rush of exhilaration coursing through her. This was their path, a union of voices, powerful and unyielding. As they continued to speak to the crowd, sharing plans and igniting desires for change, Lena felt the momentum shift. People were ready, eyes alive with purpose. But she also knew the shadows loomed closer. The nobles would not allow the loyalty of the people to slip from their grasp so easily. That night, rallying all who would join them had been exhausting, but Lena had never felt more alive. They shared tales of struggle, forged strategies in whispered conversations, and knew they had crossed a threshold into the unknown. But the question remained, would the nobles let them act unchallenged, or would they exact their revenge? Dread clung to the air as word traveled fast. Just as they finished their first meeting, chaos erupted in the castle. Shouts pierced the night as Lena and Draven rushed to the castle center, hearts racing. Nobles had gathered in outrage. Draven's decisions had soon reached them, twisting their fears into fury. A council meeting was called, nobles demanding justice. Heads had to roll, they insisted. "Draven!" Axton's face was pale as he pushed through the throng. "They're enraged. We need to leave now. You can't face them unprotected." "The time for hiding has ended," Draven declared, a fierce light igniting in his eyes. "If they want war, then we must stand ready to fight. I will not allow them to silence our voices." But Lena could see the storm gathering, uncertainty swirling like the tempest outside. Would they truly engage in battle? The consequences felt immense, and everything they had fought for stood at the precipice of destruction. As they made their way to the assembly hall, dread hung thick. Lena's thoughts raced. Would they stand as one? Or would their determination crumble before the demands of the powerful? The assembly hall loomed ahead, a bastion of tradition and rule. Lena held her breath, hand tightening around Draven's arm, grounding herself against the weight of fear and hope. "Whatever happens in there," Draven said, gaze fixed ahead. "We are united. We will face this together." And with that, they strode into the fray, ready for a storm of challenges, eyes on the future they dared to have. Would they emerge victorious? Or would the darkness consume their dreams? The fires of change raged, and all that stood between them and despair was a singular bond, love and hope worth fighting for. The assembly hall buzzed with tension. Nobles crowded in under flickering torchlight, their faces twisted with anger and disbelief. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she shifted beside Draven, who remained resolute amidst the chaos. She could feel the weight of their stares, a challenging force that threatened to crush her spirit, but instead ignited a fire within her. Silence. The commanding voice of Lord Fenwick echoed across the room, cutting through whispers. "You think you can lead us down the path of rebellion? You've lost your sense." Draven stepped forward, fierce and unwavering. "No, I've found it. This kingdom can no longer prosper when its people suffer. We cannot ignore their cries for justice." The gathering murmured like a storm brewing, alive with uncertainty. "Children of Valoran are starving while you feast," Lena declared boldly, stepping into the forefront. "Is this the legacy you wish to uphold? One built on suffering?" Gasps rippled through the crowd, surprise twisting their faces. She summoned every ounce of courage, bolstered by Draven's subtle nod of encouragement. "Do not be fooled," another noble, Lady Vashti sneered. "You two think you can change centuries of tradition. Your aspirations will be your downfall." Draven faced her calmly. "If I must fall to protect the people, so be it. But I refuse to let a corrupt order dictate their fate any longer." Lena could feel energy rising in the room, hope mingling with uncertainty. She caught a glimpse of rebellion in the eyes of the common folk lingering at the edges of the hall. "The tide is shifting," she shouted. "Will you stand with us or cling to your fading power?" The nobles hesitated. Would they rally together as one or remain shackled by fear? The tension thickened, a fragile moment suspended in time. Then, one by one, hands started to rise, voices echoing an unexpected agreement. "We're tired of being silenced," someone shouted from the back. "We demand our place." The cries surged until a chorus rang through the hall, a declaration resonating against oppression. "They do not speak for us," Lord Fenwick roared. "You are naive if you think rebellion can bring peace." Draven stood firm. But true peace starts with truth. If you choose to fight against this movement, you will be fighting against the very heart of Valoran. Lena felt the heat of conviction radiate between them like a current. Voices rose and energy surged in a wave, a spellbinding call for unity. But the shadows lingered. Retaliation from the nobles loomed ominously. "The people will rise," Draven declared, his voice fierce. "Together, we will break free of these shackles." Lena's heart swelled with courage, but doubt tugged at her mind. Could they truly withstand the backlash? Before she could voice her concern, Draven reached for her hand. "Whatever comes next, we stand prepared." With that, the assembly hall erupted in applause and raucous cheers. As the hall vibrated with determination, negatives gave way to possibilities, the dawn of a new era. But just as hope flourished, cries of distress echoed from the castle entrance. "The nobles are gathering!" A frantic voice pierced through their celebration. The jubilant energy waned, fear danced in the air again. Would they retaliate, march against this growing unity? "Nobles won't be quiet for long, they'll fight back." Axton pushed through the crowd, urgency etched in his features. Lena's stomach tightened at the thought of confrontation. "We need to be ready," Draven said. "We'll prepare the people. They deserve the right to fight." "Yes," Lena agreed, determination flooding back. "We'll train them, teach them to stand united." Together, they stepped back into the heart of the assembly, hands still clasped in solidarity. "Tonight, we will gather with our allies. Together, we will rise against those who would silence us." With renewed strength, Lena and Draven paved the way for a united front, igniting hope in the hearts of those around them. They gripped hands tighter, prepared for the looming battle. Would their voices triumph over the rigid oppression of tradition? As dawn broke over Valoran, the world felt fresh, ripe for change. Love, hope, and conviction surged within her, a reminder that they would stand against whatever storm threatened to tear them apart. If you enjoyed the story of Lena and Draven, the Beacons of Change, subscribe for more epic Lycan King romances. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And remember, unity in love can conquer all. Thank you for listening.